In this series of videos, we have asked whether or not HIV is a kind of divine punishment for bad behaviour, especially sexual sins.
It is true that HIV is often contacted through sex, but sex does not cause HIV.
An HIV diagnosis may be the occasion that causes a person to reflect upon their sexual behaviour or look again at the quality of their relationships. Because not all sex is loving or satisfying. Some relationships, both gay and straight, are exploitative or abusive.
Sometimes sex can happen without love or care for ourselves or for others. We've asked the question, is HIV God's judgment?
It's worth repeating our Christian traditions and values that God does not send HIV as a punishment, not even for bad sex, not even for gay sex, or any forms of sex.
HIV is a virus. God doesn't decide who will get HIV and who will not.
Nevertheless, in some churches, some people still insist on linking sex with sin. It's a bad habit we Christians have had for centuries.
It can become an unhealthy obsession, as though who we love or what we do with our bodies is God's main concern.
But when it comes to being Christian, Jesus says almost nothing about sex in the Gospels. And in the Old Testament, God is concerned with much more than sex. Remember God's instruction in the book of Micah. God asks us to act justly, to love tenderly, and walk humbly.
The prophets tell us consistently God's constant concern is with the justice of our relationships, and that we treat those who are weakest and most vulnerable in society with kindness and mercy.
And follow this priority, how we treat the poor, the homeless, the orphans, the strangers and the refugees, how we respond to those who are hungry, who are thirsty, or in prison, or sick, or naked.
In Matthew 25, Jesus leaves us in no doubt that when Judgment Day comes, this is what matters to God.
The present-day preoccupation with sex is ours. And so, in some churches, some people will insist, loudly and confidently, that it must be God's preoccupation too. They have made up their minds.
But remember, Jesus told us, do not judge, lest you be judged. And again, when the crowd had gathered to stone to death the woman caught in adultery, going against the religious law of his time, Jesus challenged them.
Let the one among you without sin throw the first stone. And the crowd dispersed, and Jesus did not condemn the woman either.
Seek out a good friend or a wise person to talk with about your relationships if you feel you need to. Your doctors or medical advisors can often help. But do not listen to the judgments of others, and do not judge yourself, because God has not judged you.